Welcome to the March 16th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair acknowledges the attendance and continued support of our entire staff, Alyssa, Liz, Mark, Amy, and Kristen. We're short a few members tonight, but we still can be quorum, so we're good. Remind you guys after commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we're not speaking over each other, and that all the votes need to be done by roll call.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, I had to do it.
Over?
I forgot. No, you don't have to start over.
Okay, I'm just getting to the important stuff anyway. So to our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Also, Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. And for those of you waiting for a particular hearing, and so you don't wait unnecessarily, the following hearings will be requesting a continuance: 11 Tonsett Road and 267 Clinton Avenue. All right, first up, vote minutes, March 2nd, 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and I'd move approval as written, pending any comments this evening.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Is there anything? All right. Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Thank you. Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted. Thank you, Kristen. Next up, our request for a continuance under a notice of intent. First up is Edward Eskandarian, 11 Tonsett Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove a deck and a portion of the existing garage, to construct 2 additions and a porch, to upgrade the on-site septic system, to install mitigation plantings, and all associated landscaping, grading, utilities, and appurtenances. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance to the next available public hearing, and that will be April 6th. So moved, Carlo Hawks.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until April 6th. Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
And Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 6th. Next continuance request, 267 Clinton Ave LLC, 267 Clinton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install and maintain an on-site Title V septic system upgrade, leaching field bed, and dewatering control system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 6th. So moved,
Bird,
Carlo
so
Hawks.
moved.
Carlo Hawks, second.
Got it. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until April 6th. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 6th. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. Robert McLaughlin, 65 North Bournes Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing 14 by 14 concrete pad and construct a 14 by 19 permeable patio in its place, and to construct a 3-foot by 12-foot outdoor kitchen on an existing patio. Alyssa?
Yes, the applicant has withdrawn their application.
All right. Thank you. Next up, Mary Hanlon, 36 Mariners Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to either pump and fill or remove existing septic system components and to install a new septic system in conformance with Title V. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Mental Health, 739 Palmer Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing septic system, install a new septic system, and repave the existing driveway. Ms. Bergeron?
Thank you. Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carlo Hawk, second.
Is this an inside interior wetland issue?
Yes, so there is a small freshwater wetland on the property, but they're actually moving the system outside of the 100-foot.
Okay.
The only activity that will take place will really be construction access over the existing driveway, and they'll install erosion control in that area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Daniel McConaughey, 68 Waterside Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace pier stringers, decking, and railing on an existing pier. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Gold Street Nominee Trust, 47 Milton Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade the subsurface sewage disposal system to meet Title V regulations with typical divergences. Ooh. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carlo Hawk, second.
This one didn't make it on town sewer?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure what their intention is going forward in that area, but nope, he's still septic.
Kind of odd. All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Pat? Whoops. Peter? Sorry.
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Old habits die hard, you know. All right, continued request for determination of applicability. Deborah H McNiven, Lot 1 Ostrom Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a single-family dwelling with all associated clearing, grading, and landscaping. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the applicant has withdrawn their application.
Excellent, thank you. Next up, Christopher Rhodes, 7 Swift Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair and maintain an existing licensed seawall. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the statement bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawk second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. All right, Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carla Hawk aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you. Next up are requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Solar US Services, LLC, 41, 42, 48, and 59 Theater Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct and maintain a solar array system to remove 4 existing buildings and associated appurtenances, to install restoration plantings, solar modules, and a perimeter fence, and all associated grading. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Raul from Cape and Islands Engineering to present the project and the energy team, which Raul can introduce to the board.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering. And with us tonight is also Mike Larkin from AMP Solar, Andrew Chabot, and Maria Bazzelli, also from the applicant. The project, as introduced in the description, is a ground-mounted solar array system, but we're focusing on some of the aspects of the project that are within conservation jurisdiction. But before we go into details of the application, I would like to have Mike Larkin give the board a brief explanation of the project. Mike?
Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute while I was presenting. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be at your meeting tonight. My name is Mike Larkin. I'm an associate developer here at AMP Energy. Joining me tonight are my colleagues from AMP Energy, Maria Bazzelli and Andrew Chabot. And I am just going to take a few minutes with a slideshow to give the commission an introduction and a brief history of the project to give the proper context of this NOI. Sorry, just trying to advance slide. There we go. So who is AMP? AMP Energy is a global renewable energy developer. We are owner, operator, and developer of renewable energy projects mainly focused in the United States. AMP Energy specializes in projects in New York and Massachusetts, and that's where most of our projects currently exist and where our development pipeline heavily focuses within the US. We develop solar projects and battery energy storage projects, and solar projects coupled with battery energy storage. And our goal is to provide dispatchable, affordable, and resilient clean power to help improve reliability, security, and carbon intensity of the electric grid. So just giving a brief history of the land here. As you can see to our right, this is the Cape Cod Country Club, located directly east of Coonamessett Pond here in Falmouth. It's comprised of 5 parcels of about 150 acres. And we are planning to develop ground-mounted solar arrays on 3 of those parcels. We have partnered with the landowner here, David Friel, who is looking to sell his land due to declining golf revenues from operating the course. And he was looking at several development options, including residential housing. And we are happy to have partnered with him to pursue the solar development option for this land. So like I said, we're pursuing solar across 3 parcels of land. And we're really excited about this project because of the unique opportunity here we have for long-term conservation and preservation of the land. AMP has been proactive in community stakeholder engagement and trying to get the community members on board and to realize the potential benefits of this project. One of the examples here was our partnership with the Coonamessett Pond Association, of which we've made several commitments to them if this project does move forward, some of them being a land donation to the town of Falmouth of the entire project of all the parcels that compose the golf club for permanent conservation. We have teamed up with Conrad Hugan, who lives by the pond there, a local water scientist for water quality monitoring of the pond itself, and hope to see promising results as fertilizer is no longer used. We have made commitments to maintain the tree line along the pond itself, so views will not be changed by people along the pond and those around it. We are looking to establish a trail network around the Coonamessett Pond, or at least the option or the section that we can control here at the golf course in partnership with the CPA. We are looking to use pollinator meadow vegetation underneath the array itself to help pollinator species and to use native vegetation that works well with the local ecology. We are planning some tree removal, but our proposed offset of tree removal is about twice the area that we're looking to take to make room for the solar farm. And we're providing landscaping features for the abutters and for people who go along Boxbury Hill Road there to keep the residential character of the area and to obstruct the views of the solar farm itself of natural vegetation and with some earth berms in certain sections. And we are also looking to maintain the community sled hill, which was important to the neighborhood association. So to give an overview of the project here, it's about 23 megawatts DC across the 3 projects. We refer to them as project B, C, and D, being the east, west, and south arrays. And you can see here the wetlands that were mapped as a part of the wetland survey and the ANRAD process that has previously occurred. You'll notice in this NOI, array B is not included, or I'm sorry, array C, because we are not planning any impacts to wetlands or their buffers. So you'll see in this NOI specific to these 2 projects adjacent to the pond. And yeah, we are excited about the opportunity to responsibly develop this array here and have an opportunity to conserve a lot of land. And so sorry, north is to the left here, so it's a little disorienting. Yeah, and thank you for your time, and I will turn it back to Raul to go into the specifics of the NOI.
Thank you, Mike. So yes, for this project, although there's a lot of development going on in all of this land, a lot of the focus for this NOI is for just those activities that actually take place within conservation jurisdiction under the protection of the Wetland Protection Act and the local conservation bylaws. So I will share my screen, which is just kind of zoom into the application plan to kind of go over some of these areas that we were talking about. So this first image that you have in front of you with my share screen it's just a clipped image of the first page of the application plan. So this is what's called Array B, which is to the northeast on Coonamessett Pond. And like Mike said, the north is actually to the left on this plan. So for this project, there are several activities happening within conservation jurisdiction. We have this existing residence at this location. It falls within 100 feet of the buffer to Coonamessett Pond. We have this other building at this location, similar to the first one, within 100 feet of Coonamessett Pond. Another residence here within 100 feet to Round Pond. Then we have the clubhouse itself, which is portion of it, 100 feet from Round Pond. Then we also have restoration plantings within 100 feet of 2 freshwater wetlands, one of which is a vernal pool on both sides of the vernal pool, the east and the west. So the resources on and within 100 feet are land under body of water, which is both Coonamessett Pond and Round Pond. There is freshwater wetlands in forms of BBWs and isolated land subject to flooding, as well as the vernal pool. There is inland banks associated with both ponds. And I will also add that Coonamessett Pond itself is within a DEP map zone 2. Therefore, the 100-foot buffer to the pond, it's also the Falmouth Wetland Regulation Buffer Zone A. On the array system for the Lot C or Parcel C, there is another isolated wetland, also associated 100-foot buffer to Round Pond. A portion of the project falls within 100 feet of that buffer to that isolated wetland. So focusing deeper into the specifics of these activities. So we have this first existing residence that is within 100 feet of Coonamessett Pond. The project here is to completely demolish this house, fill the basement area. I did a quick calculation because it was one of the comments or questions in the staff report. And this basement will take approximately 280 cubic yards to be filled in. The finished grade will just blend with the existing surrounding grades. So there's no proposed change in grades after this removal is done. The material for filling this basement will come from on-site. Some of the areas for the array will be reshaped in grades to provide some grades that are acceptable for the array system. And that volume of material is going to come to fill in this basement. The limit of work will follow the existing edge of clearing, and the whole area is going to be loomed and seeded with native grass, wild seeds. The second and third buildings to be demolished are what's called the pump house, which is also within the 100 foot of the Coonamessett Pond. Once that building is removed, the grades of the basement will be filled in. This building itself will take approximately 230 cubic yards of fill material, and the grades will just blend with the existing surrounding grades. Then we have this other residence within 100 feet of Round Pond. Similarly, will be removed, the basement will be filled in, and this one will take approximately 200 cubic yards of fill material. And again, the material is coming within the site. No import for materials from other sources. Then the fourth building to be demolished will be the clubhouse itself. And associated with the clubhouse is some paved areas and pathways around it, which is also getting removed. And the grading here, we're not anticipating to bring in fill to fill the basement. Portion of the void that's left behind by the removal of this building will be used as a little depression for a drain basin, but it will be outside of the 100-foot buffer to Round Pond. Then the two main areas for the majority of the work under this notice of intent. This is the area of the vernal pool which is in the center of array B or the parcel for array B. Outside fringing this vernal pool, there's a little bit of a bordering vegetated wetland on a couple of areas. Then there's also another isolated land subject to flooding. This one in particular is completely within the fairway of hole number 18, if I'm not mistaken. It's completely lawn areas and is being maintained and mowed all the time, but it is found to be an isolated land subject to flooding or isolated wetland. So in this particular area, what is being proposed is planting. There's a portion to the east, keeping in mind that east is to the bottom of this page. There's a portion of the east side of the vernal pool at this location, which is actually part of the BBW and also part of the vernal pool that is being mowed and maintained as fairway. So this area is going to be proposed to be planted with wet species. Staff recommends that those wet species planting be extended to also include this area. It makes total sense because this is low-lying land and the groundwater is very close to the surface. So anything that is planted here will better do if it is a wet type of plant. The rest of this area within 100 feet of this wetlands will be planted. What we call on the plan is the first 35 feet to use the typical 3 feet on center shrubs installation. Outside of that 35 feet, we're just going to continue to plant with shrubs and some trees, but not at the same density. This whole area within 100 feet adds up to approximately 66,000 square feet of land. And then to the west, this area over here adds up to approximately 25,000 square feet of plantings. So the first 35 feet, we want to make it so that it's dense with shrubs. But then after that, we'll loosen up on the density, but the entire area will be planted. In terms of what is the project impact, in reality, the project is reducing approximately impervious areas by 4,500 square feet by the removal of the buildings and some of the paved areas. It is proposing to do approximately 275 square feet of array system, which is this little portion of this array system on array D to the south of Round Pond. There is this isolated vegetated wetland. So what we're proposing is to install a fence completely located within the existing fairway of this golf course, and then approximately 277 square feet of array system in the outer zone of this buffer zone from 94 to 100 feet to this buffer. Some of this area is going to be graded, but the intention of the grading is to send all the water away from this isolated wetland. There is a comment in the staff report that this isolated wetland could be a vernal pool. We got in touch with LEC, who performed the delineations for these properties, and they confirmed that they subsequently, after the filing of the ANRAD last year, they went and visited the site again, and the site was dried. It did not meet the criteria at the time of a vernal pool. So at the moment, it is still being called an isolated vegetative wetland. Outside of the proposed fencing for this project, the applicant has no proposed work other than some grading to just shape the land according to what they need for the array system. Outside of that, towards the ponds, it will be left to nature to take its course and either revegetate itself and restore. There was a question about some of the existing paved areas within those buffer zones. There is the potential for some agreements with the communities surrounding this project that there will be a nature walking trail system. So it could be that some of these car paths that are within the site, such as this one, may be left intact just for the purpose to be used for the community to walk around the ponds. So all of those paths that exist on the Coonamessett Pond side, at this particular moment, we're not calling them to be removed. What we are calling to be removed is anything that is paved in terms of car paths or driveways within the proposed fencing and within the proposed graded areas. All the grading and reshaping of the land is intended to be kept on site. No material is going to be trucked out of the site and no material is going to be brought in. So the intention of the grading is so that the array system is installed in grades no steeper than 10%. So some of the areas that are steeper than 10%, we're cutting down the high sides to fill the low sides and average those grades to 10%. We're also using some of the surplus material to build some earth berms to kind of buffer some of the neighboring properties. If I go to some of the comments from staff, so there were some comments about what type of mulch will be used for these plants that we're proposing. We don't have a specific note on the plan of what type of mulch, but we understand that we don't want to use a mulch that has some type of artificial dye that will be a problem for this area. So we're not proposing to do anything that's, artificially dyed mulches. Staff recommends a larger variety for the species for the restoration plants. The species that we chose for the listing on the plan were species that were noted to exist during the BVW delineations and the wetland delineation. But if the staff is willing to add some more species, we can work with staff to add more variety to this proposed planting scheme. So again, some of the areas outside of the proposed fence towards the ponds, the applicant has no intentions to do any work on them. So they will either become naturally vegetated or reestablished by themselves. I do know from talking with LEC, one of the ideas that they're looking to implement is repurposing some of the existing sand traps for some turtle nesting areas. For that, I'm not exactly sure what their plan is. I believe some of the steep slopes, they may have to just grade them to not be as steep, but that is some of the ideas that are being reviewed. But currently, there's nothing being proposed outside of the fences other than some of the grading needed for the work to take place. So that concludes my presentation. And if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Raul. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for answering as many questions during the presentation, Raul. That was helpful. But I still have concerns with that little isolated area that LEC was saying is just the isolated wetland. It was dry. Do you know when their second visit was? You said they went back out there after the ANRAD. Do you know what time of year they went out?
Right. I talked to Brian, and I'm sorry, I didn't talk to Brian. It was emails correspondence, and he said he went in the spring of last year. Now,
Okay.
Now the NRAD was filed early last year, and it was continued. Eventually, the NRAD was issued, but the decision was issued in the summer.
Yeah.
So it was sometime in between that they went back, and it was found to be dried. But I understand the concerns, and maybe we have to do another site visit this spring or even now to confirm it a second time.
It is holding water. We do have pictures of that area with water. So that's what's concerning the staff. So we would like, obviously this will need to be continued because you don't have the DEP number. So it will give us some time to go out there and just confirm if that, if that area is supporting vernal pool species. So at least we have a little bit of time, and let's just figure that out, because if we are going to classify it as a vernal pool, then we are going to have to remove that grading or, reduce that impact in that 100-foot buffer from that area.
Understood.
Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming it's going to be a chain link fence around everything.
Yes, that's one of my answers that I didn't get to.
Yeah, okay. Are you going to revise at least the restoration portion of the narrative to say that little wetland that's in the middle of the fairway that's being treated as fairway, that low area is going to have all that wetland restoration herbaceous material in there?
We can edit that note
Okay.
and that paragraph to include that.
Excellent, thank you. In the replication and buffer zone area, are you removing the turf grass, correct?
No, the idea is just to plant over what's there. That area of hole 18, there's no grading happening in that area. What we're proposing to do in that section is just planting it, keeping what's there. There's not going to be any more maintenance of lawn areas, so that the lawn will eventually die away with the new plantings. On the east side of the vernal pool, there is grading proposed there. So yes, the top loam will be removed to allow for the grading to take shape, and then new loam or loam from the site, because there's going to be plenty of loam on site, to be repurposed to plant the new species.
Okay, I'm going to look into that if that's an appropriate way to do a wetland restoration if you're planting it in especially turf grass that's used for golf courses. So I have some concerns with that, and we may require for those areas to be that golf course turf to be removed in our replication and restoration areas. But again, we have some time to figure that out. Just, for the public, the Conservation Commission's role in this project is extremely limited. We have, 100 feet from the isolated wetlands and the ponds, and that is the limit of this board's jurisdiction. So this will go before the Cape Cod Commission. This will be going back to the planning board for a site plan review, correct, Raul?
That's correct.
So there will be opportunities for the public to weigh in on the project, the entire project, but our scope in this hearing is, again, extremely limited compared to the actual scope of this project, as Raul, you had pointed out with the map of the entire golf course with the solar arrays. So that's all I have. I know Alyssa is going to jump in and get all the stuff I missed. So Alyssa, you have anything to add?
I think the only two questions that were additional pertain to areas just outside of our jurisdiction. So I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to bring those up or talk to Raul later.
Yeah, Raul, could you explain what's happening? I know that we're going to need to weigh heavily in on the site plan review about, some removal of trees. So can you tell us what's happening between, like, in this case, our buffer zones and that fence line?
Yes, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen to kind of touch up on some of this item. So yes, going back to the bigger pictures. So this is the south area, south of Round Pond. This entire fairway will be planted, but again, it's outside of conservation jurisdiction. The area within 100 feet of Round Pond will not be touched with this project. That will just be allowed to continue to be. There's an area here that it's kind of like the connection between Round Pond and Coonamessett Pond. This has a culvert, and there is a cart path that goes over that culvert. There's nothing proposed for this. So if further on, whatever entity wants to continue use of this trail system, if they want to continue to maintain that culvert, that will be something separate from this project. This project will not do anything to this. This existing path, which is within conservation jurisdiction, will continue to remain because this project will not propose to remove that one, at least not at this time. So if we go back to the northern part of the project, so all the existing vegetation within 100 feet of Coonamessipon, all the existing one, is not going to be affected with this project. There's no proposed work of the existing vegetation in there. The existing vegetation within 100 feet of the vernal pool and this isolated wetland or bordering vegetated wetland around the vernal pool and this other isolated wetland in this location, the existing vegetation within 100 feet will not be touched. So we're just going to be enhancing that buffer with new vegetation and new plantings on the areas that are already cleared. The areas for the buildings that are being removed, what we're proposing to do is loom the finished surface and seed it with a native seed mixture.
Okay, thank you, Raul. And Alyssa, you have a second question?
I was actually hoping Raul could share his screen again. I just had one question on what the page you were just showing with the potential vernal pool.
All right, let me do that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I closed it for a minute, so I had to get it back up. Hopefully you can still read it. It's got a lot of scratches on it.
That's okay. So looking at the potential vernal pool right now, and I'm sorry, I lost the cardinal direction here. If you go just to the left, past outside the 100-foot buffer. Yeah, so kind of that area, and then on the other side, is that vegetation proposed to stay? I was speaking with Mark earlier, he was under the impression that it was, but I just wanted to verify.
So yes, I can touch on that. So this part of it is the existing vegetation beyond the 100-foot buffer is staying. I believe a portion even beyond that is staying, but then in this area over here, we are cutting that vegetation and regrading some of this area. So to the north, which is the left of the picture, this area of vegetation, actually, this is the proposed fence, which is just outside of the vegetation. This vegetation here, what the applicant plans to do is manage the height of the trees here to allow the south sunlight to go over and reach out to the panels. So the vegetation itself is just going to be managed in terms of height. Something to also understand here, if I go back to this photograph, which is on page 2 of the application plan, this shows the existing elevations. The vernal pool is roughly at elevation 38, 36. The array system is roughly at elevation 80, far to the north. So the vegetation at this area, closer to the vernal pool, of course, there's still some trees, but it's lower in elevation. So the management of their height, it's not as much compared to the ones that are closer to elevation 70s.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate it.
So just to follow up on that, Raul, you are saying that they are going to manage the height of those trees within that 100-foot buffer to that vernal pool, but not as much.
No, that's outside the 100-foot buffer.
Oh, that was outside. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's between 100 and 250 feet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's it from staff, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We're going to start with some commissioner comments. Courtney?
So Rule, those 3 buildings are all within, that you're proposing to remove are within conservation jurisdiction?
4.
All right, anyway, 4. The question then is, I wasn't clear from your narrative. Are you completely removing the foundation or just knocking the walls down? What are you doing?
The whole structure is proposed to be removed.
And that includes all the concrete for the foundation.
All concrete.
Okay, Thank you, that you've answered my question.
All right. Yeah, that was kind of
The
confusing.
word I would have said, that will be a condition.
All right. Anything else, Court?
Nothing. Thank you.
All right. Raul, I have a couple questions. First of all, you have 277 square feet within the buffer zone and about 170 feet of perimeter fence. And I think it's on the south side, if I remember correctly. My question is that that's a small area, but why can't that be placed somewhere else and then not interrupt the buffer zone?
I would want to see if either Mike or Andrew could probably chime in on this. Yeah, the array has a particular alignment. So that's where those particular arrays showed up. But Andrew, if you want to probably chime in on this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So if the question is for that small area on parcel D that we're hoping to put array on, the issue is the way the solar racking is set up. It's usually in fairly long lines, and it's unfortunate that it's set up where we wouldn't be able to avoid that area without losing the entire row of panels that go along with it. So for this particular situation, with seeing that there was existing fairway there, the hope was to be able just to put that that table is what it's called there, that could enable us to not have to avoid the whole line altogether.
Okay. And Raul, I think you said that was going to land at about 94 feet.
Right. The closest point to that wetland is 94 feet, from 94 to 100.
Thank you. Michael, I think you said this, or you alluded to it, so it's a question. Public access. Some of the cartways and everything are going to be retained. So to what degree is the property going to be available to public access? Andrew's nodding his head. Maybe I should have directed it to him. I don't know.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was a comment on the thing. Yeah, so we aren't going to allow, or there won't be public access inside the array itself. So inside the chain link fence.
Understood.
We plan to allow access to the parking lot there at the country club. As you probably saw in the plans, we're planning to get rid of a portion of that parking lot to allow room for the array. But we are planning to keep a certain proportion of the parking lot and also potentially turn the impervious surface to something like gravel or something less impact to still allow for parking at that location for trail access. However, the Coonamessett Pond Trail network seems to shape up, but it seems like a good point for access there, given the cart path kind of runs all along the pond from that point. So that's what we are currently proposing. Oh, and then also the Sled Hill keep out area should be accessible from Boxbury Hill Road off the road there itself. And yeah, there won't be an array fence blocking that area off.
I'll get back to you, Courtney. Yeah, you can't take away those sledding hills. I mean, that'd be a deal breaker. All right. Just a comment. I'm sure well, I don't know how many owners have easements to the pond, so I assume that would be retained as well.
Yeah. So there's an altar survey being put together, and any easement that are currently on the property will have to continue to be protected or readdressed to continue to provide the benefits of such easements.
Okay. Thank you. Maury? Maury, you're muted.
I had the same concerns you did, Jamie, with that being so close, but I understand how now you explain how the arrays have to go. But why can't it move further to the, I guess it's north, south, east, the west, go down where you have your drain, your grass drain basin, couldn't that move further down and then that array still be in its line without impacting so much of the buffer to the BVW, which could be a vernal pool?
So yes,
If it's a vernal pool, it'll probably have to move somewhere.
yeah, I can touch on that. So the array itself will have to meet zoning setbacks to property lines. And the first row of arrays closest to Conomeset Pond is right at the setback. So that row of arrays cannot move. That's why that third row to the west gets to within 94 feet of that wetland.
So that array might not happen if it's within the vernal pool, if that is a vernal pool. I just, that's what we're protecting, and I understand the setbacks, but you could get a variance for a setback to the property line, which is far less impact because it's the town of Falmouth property than because we're also the conservation's town of Falmouth, that would rather protect the wetland than the 50-foot setback. So that just might be something to consider. And the other thing, in your drainage swales and things that you're making, are you planning to do any rain garden type project?
So yeah, the proposed overall project, the idea is to do as much of the drainage in the form of grass basins and maybe a layer of crushed stone on the surface and sand on the bottom, and not do any structures in the forms of catch basins and leaching pits and leaching galleys. So the whole idea is to collect it with surface treatment in basins form, all of which we're planning on locating all of them outside of conservation jurisdiction. Yes.
And they might actually turn into very viable wetlands at some point, which would be really good.
With time, that is possible. The new stormwater management standards, DEP stormwater management standard, does protect stormwater systems from being considered wetlands. So
I'm not saying it would be in our jurisdiction at that point, but
right.
It would just be nice if they created something more than just a drainage basin.
It could function as a wetland just for the purpose of collecting all this water. Yeah.
Yep, some little spade toad might find his way there. You never know. The other thing is around the vernal pool, we usually bring this up in very sensitive areas that a split rail fence is going to be put around that, since you're into fencing. And when you have fencing, even if it's chain link, it's going to have to be raised up so critters can get underneath it in our jurisdiction. But other than that, those are my only comments.
All right. Peter.
The other commissioners have raised my concerns and I'm all set.
Excellent. Steve?
Thank you. Yes, well done, team. I wondered, Raoul, could you put up do you have a overview of the entire property with the arrays highlighted in the area?
The entire property, I believe, Mike, if you could share your screen, you do have one.
Yep, I just need to pull it up and load it. 1 second.
Yeah, the pictures that I had, actually, you could see it. Mike, let me see if I can share my screen and it will be what Steve is looking for. So Steve, this is a plan that I have with the majority of the array system. You kind of see all those little rectangles kind of all over the place. That's what the array system is.
I understand that, but the parcel is larger than this. There's off of Theater Drive, there's some townhomes. I'm just wondering, I wanted to get a picture. Oh, they're over here on the upper right.
So these are the townhomes.
Disorientation.
Yes.
At the upper right of where you are now. Those townhomes. Is that where the townhomes are?
I believe these are residences.
Right.
The
And they're
condos are in the upper
outside
left.
of,
These are the condos I believe that you're talking about.
oh yeah, you're right. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so, and then on the, again, the orientation is difficult, but on this map above Boxbury Hill Road, the parcels that are part of, are they part of what you've acquired? Yeah, up there.
Yeah, so this is the big parcel that is part of the solar array system.
Oh, it's another section of the solar array where the X is.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. It seemed like there was this concentration of array all on the relatively sensitive areas. And thank you for clarifying that they're everywhere.
Mr. Larkin, if you could bring up, you did have one on your presentation that
Yeah.
showed the arrays throughout the
Either
whole.
one of you
Oh.
first.
I'm sorry. Yes, from the presentation. Yep, I can bring that up.
That might be helpful for Commissioner Patton.
And Mike, I could also share an image from Google Earth if that's helpful as well, but I'll let you take it.
That's what I was looking at when I was asking the question.
Yeah.
So, but my eyes aren't that good and my phone's really small. So this is the entire parcel.
Right, the one that is to the east of Bucksbury Hill, that is the large array system. That is
Okay.
The biggest one of all three.
Okay. And the existing line where your pointer is now, that'll just remain whatever it is now? If you move your pointer upwards?
That open space is actually owned by the town of Falmouth. That's open space land.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to get a better handle on this. I think for our portion of it, they're making a really solid attempt with the small portion that Maury has pointed out so well. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Michael, thank you for sharing that. Courtney, you had something else?
I think that Maury addressed my concern. If you could put that you just took it off, but
Oh, sorry.
yeah, if you could put that back up.
Yep.
My concern has to do with the chain link fencing, and I know you need to do this for security reasons, but I'm also concerned, like Maury is, about the wildlife passage. So would I be reasonable to say that all of the white lines surrounding your blue solar arrays really represents a chain link fence? Is that what I would guess?
That's an accurate assumption, yes.
Okay, and so is that going to be problematic for wildlife to transfers?
Andrew, if you could chime in, I believe the
Sure.
chain link fence is a electric code requirement, but Andrew, please.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so that's correct. It's that is electrical requirement, but the way we go about it is we raise the fence up about 6 inches or so that all sorts of smaller animals might have egress in and around the array area, and then are working on establishing a wildlife corridor plan so that larger animals would be able to more easily navigate around these arrays.
Okay. You've answered my question, because for all of those who remember the movie Caddyshack with those 2 fairways, they're all the groundhogs are going to want to use that as a driving range. No other questions.
Thank you. Out of curiosity, what's the lifespan of this system? Expected lifespan?
Yes, that's a good question. The panels themselves will typically degrade about 0.5% to 1% per year, because there's no moving parts in the modules themselves. They will, for example, 20 years down the road, you might have an array that's still operating at 80 to 90% efficiency. What will fail beforehand would be some of the electrical equipment, like the inverter. And so those are replaced on a tenor of about every 7 to 10 years. And then you're looking at the steel that's in the ground that can last, 30, 40, 50 years. So typically when we go into a project like this, we assume about 35 to 40 years of total life for the project.
Thank you. All right. Andrew or Michael, I'm not sure who's sharing. You can stop now. Please. As soon as you do, somebody's going to ask to see it back again. So I'm not going to be able to win. All right. Are there any more commissioner comments or questions? Maury?
I just had one quick one, now, only because you opened up a question that wasn't really conservation. Where does this power, who ends up with this power?
So the power goes into the local distribution network for the utility, situation Eversource. And then it's, I guess the way I'd frame it is, unless you have a solar array on your house and you're totally disconnected from the grid, you can guarantee that your energy is coming from solar in that context. But if you're in the grid, it's kind of like a soup. It goes out and it gets mixed around. But people in the immediate vicinity would be getting the benefits of the electricity that's generated as it's distributed into the grid from there. We do have the opportunity to, I guess on paper, say, X person has X amount of energy from this facility. And we can certainly, work with municipalities to, provide some need they might have for public buildings. That's usually how we've tried to engage towns to see, if we could provide them with power from an array like this.
Project. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Maria, we've left you out. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, not at this time. But thanks for considering me.
All right, Jen, public chat function, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So one question from Joe Soares. Raul, your presentation shows the 4th and 5th fairway is still being a fairway. What is the plan for these two fairways? Doesn't have to be Raul.
So I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers right in front of me. So Mike, you might know better than me, but I believe that one of them we're proposing to replant.
Yep.
And then the other, I think, is currently left as is. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah, that's currently the plan.
Okay.
We expect maybe that isolated one on the other side of Boxbury Road might be required to eventually also include restoration planting to offset our take, or just to make it a better project in general for the planning board and the Cape Cod Commission. But yeah, no plans with that piece of the property at this time.
At this time. Okay. And then I think this was already answered, Raul. Our deed shows an easement to Coonamessett Pond. How do you plan on addressing this? And I think you answered that question, Raul, that all the deeds will be addressed.
Yep.
Okay. And Patrick Janako would like to comment when appropriate, so I will promote him to a panelist, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Just a reminder, stick to our topic and our jurisdiction.
Thank you all very much for the opportunity to speak. Can someone confirm that they can hear me okay?
We can hear you, sir.
We can
hear you.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm very much a believer in green energy, so much so that I'm an investor in it, but not in historical and environmentally sensitive areas. I will limit my comments to the mission of the Conservation Committee, which are environmental concerns, aesthetics, and recreation. On the environmental side, the fencing is extremely concerning to me. One, it restricts local fauna from moving back and forth. I appreciate the 6-inch gap, but things like things like deer, fox, turkey, those might not be able to get through those gaps. And while solar panels are obviously really good for the entire planet, it really does destroy this local ecosystem. So there are better places for solar facilities than, again, historical environmentally sensitive areas. So it really doesn't make much sense to me. And additionally, this golf course has been recognized for its environmental practices. The superintendent won the 2021 award for environmental stewardship. That's something that the town of Falmouth should be very proud of. And seeing that local ecosystem be destroyed by solar panels and all this fencing would certainly be a detriment to the community. Secondly, on aesthetics, this really is a piece of art. These rolling hills that are going to be graded were the canvas for Deborah Emmett and Alfred Tull to design this golf course, and they did an amazing job. It's extremely historical. These are two well-known designers, and it really is a piece of art that's being destroyed. And lastly, on recreation, which is mentioned in the committee's mission, this is a Cape Cod Country Club is not a country club. It's a public golf course that represents an affordable option for both residents of Falmouth and more broadly. There's really nothing like it in terms of the quality and affordability. And I think that if the Friel family and AMP wants to push this through, I would definitely eliminate the part of your presentation where it said lower revenue, which I find disingenuous, particularly since golf has seen such a tailwind from COVID with everyone work from home and everyone being outside. There's just no way that the course is struggling financially, particularly when it's that high quality. So I think putting this solar facility on this land would represent a huge failure to zone land efficiently because of the impact on the local environment. And there's so many other flatter areas, frankly, where you can put a solar panel that's not in a historic environmentally sensitive area. And I very much appreciate you all letting me speak today.
Thank you, Patrick. Anything else, Jen?
Nope, I think that is it for public comment. We did receive a number of letters which were all forwarded to the commission, so you all received those letters. If anybody else would like to comment, please raise your hand at this time on the computer, please. I don't see anybody else raising their hand, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Raul, what are you thinking?
We have to ask for a continuance. Last I checked this afternoon, we still don't have a notice of intent number.
Yeah.
So we have to ask for that continuance and also to address some of the topics that were raised during this hearing. So, Jen,
So
what is?
We're not meeting, not going to be the 30th. And I think to give us appropriate amount of time to check out that vernal pool, I think no later than April 13th. I know that's pushing you out a few weeks, but that'll give us the best opportunity to see if that area is a vernal pool. It is wet right now. If the vernal pool species are going to move into that area, it's going to be during that first warm spring rain. So it's either the 6th or the 13th. The 13th will give us a little bit of buffer to really understand what that little area is doing.
If the rest of the team is good with the 13, I would ask for the 13, continuance to the 13.
Oh, have you guys applied with the Cape Cod Commission?
So once we apply with the Cape Cod Commission, all the local processes have to stop. So what we're doing here is getting permission to do those particular activities that are outside, that are within the conservation jurisdiction, not necessarily the approval of the whole array system. That's not what we're asking the board to do. It's just those particular activities within jurisdiction.
Okay. All right.
And Mr. Chairman, I understand that I could have this wrong. Once the Cape Cod Commission receives their application, they have a certain amount of days to actually issue a decision from the receipt of the application, not from the close of their hearing. So if any changes on our end need to be made to adjust the solar array in the area of that vernal pool, that, they don't want to have to go back to the Cape Cod Commission and amend it from there. It's easier to amend our permit than it would be the Cape Cod Commission's decision. So I spoke with both Raul and I spoke to the interim town planner today, and we feel it's appropriate to move forward with this process.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Raul, works for your team?
Yep, 16.
Nope, 13th, Raul.
Sorry, 13.
All right.
Requested.
Make a motion to continue to the 13th.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until the April 13th. If there's nothing else from the commission. All right, Courtney?
Third eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Matt and I.
All right, it is unanimous. We have continued this until April 13th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Next up, Chappaquiddick Association, 0 Associates Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct and maintain an existing licensed pier, ramp, float, and pilings. Glenn?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Nate from Holmes McGrath up to
Thank you.
his project.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Nate, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. For the record, Nate Goshgarian with Holmes McGrath presenting tonight on behalf of the applicant. Permission to share my screen, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Can everybody see the colored exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, so this is our subject property, our locus. This is 0 Associates Road. It is a private community lot, about 85,000 square feet. Currently features a licensed fixed pier, ramp, and float, as well as associated landscaping and a non-paved parking lot. The protected wetland resources on or within 100 feet of this property include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, coastal dune, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. So this project is pretty straightforward. What we are proposing tonight is the reconstruction and maintenance of an existing licensed pier, ramp, and float. We are not proposing any increase in footprint, although we are proposing public lateral access ramps on either side of the pier above high water, which is required by the Chapter 91 license. All the import of construction materials as well as access will be done on land. We are not proposing any type of barge access or marine access. We are asking if the commission would be amenable to the use of CCA treated pilings, starting at this area right here, which is landward of mean high water. I did want to touch upon 2 points that were noted in the staff report. One was a recommendation to move the existing boat rack off of the dune grass. The applicant is certainly receptive to that and actually requests that that be noted in the orders. That's point number one. Point number two was Alyssa had noted that several of the limbs have been cut off a small cedar by the dock. She wanted to know if this had to do with anything with storm damage. We reached out, talked to the applicant, and he did in fact confirm that this was a result of storm damage. I think that is pretty much it for my presentation. So I will hand it back over to you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Nate. You've taken short and sweet to a new level.
I was just going to say that.
I like it.
Staff has, I believe we have any comments on this one. He's answered the issues that were raised in the staff report. The only question for the board is whether or not you're going to allow the CCA treated in the beach. I'm not quite sure what the leaching is on that, so I'm going to leave it to probably Maury, Courtney, and Jamie to Got that one around.
All right. Melissa, do you have anything to add?
It seems everything was addressed, so thank you.
All right. All right. Commissioner comments. We're going to start with Steve.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't listed as one of the potential experts on the subject, so maybe I should pass. No, just kidding.
Sorry, Steve.
I truly am not an expert in that field. Other than not being flagged, it seemed like a good project, and the support for moving the storage facility pretty much put me over the top, so I'm okay.
Peter.
No questions.
Okay. Maury?
I don't have any problem with the CCA upland. Everybody uses them for posts for snow fencing, and I mean, we let them go up coastal banks. So I don't have a problem with that. The only question I did have is the proposed public lateral access, which I'm glad to see that, but will it be marked so people know that they can use that? Because it's not, usually it's below, it's on the water side, and this is sort of up. I just want to know how they're going to know that that's what, I mean, it looks very private, and a lot of people would respect that and not go over that.
Yep, that's a great question, and I can confirm through signage it is going to be indicated.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Courtney.
Everybody's asked the questions I was going to ask. No questions.
The advantage of being last sometimes. All right. For what it's worth, I don't have any problem with the CCA either. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. There's nothing further. All right. Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
At 9.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
You're welcome.
.5 minutes. That's the way they all should be. Yeah, right. All right. The next two have been continued. Brings us to continued request to amend an existing order of conditions. Karen Alcott, trustee of Small Cottage Realty Trust, 141 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4540 to permit the reconfiguration of the proposed house and the proposed mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Tom Bunker up to present the project. Tom, is there anybody else I'm promoting up? Am I promoting Miss Alcott up?
There's nobody else here.
Okay, great.
She's probably here, but
okay, no worries.
I'm doing
Tom,
it here.
Before you, Tom, I'm sorry, don't mean to interrupt you. Jen, the quorum, I have that Steve is not on this quorum.
Correct. So it's you, Maury, Courtney, and Peter. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that, Tom.
No problem. Have to get your facts straight. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, and I'm presenting this as an amended order to an order of conditions that was approved 2 years ago. And I was here a few weeks ago, 5 weeks ago or something. I feel I got off on the wrong foot because I started sort of presenting it as a new project, but it's an amendment. And so this time I'll start off better and show you the currently approved plan, and I'll move on from there if I may.
Yes, sir.
So this plan it's let me show you. I can show you first an aerial photo of the site. I have the existing house here. This is a Nantucket Sound down here, or a Groin Beach area. This area is a vegetated dune up in here, and then there's lawn, a couple little retaining walls, and then you get the house and a parking area up at the road. So that shows in the plan that this was done by Stephen Doyle and Wayne Tavares. At this plan, you can see the heavy stippled area is the existing house, and then this is the plan that's with the approved house on it. This shaded area here, the driveway going up this way, and the existing driveway to be seeded with a conservation mix in here. And oops, get here, I can show you. I want to zoom in easily. I can show you here, the house was approved. This is this jagged line right here is the delineation of the coastal bank, and the house is approved at 3.5 feet from the coastal bank. And I can point out that it's actually so close that this scalloped line is the edge of the existing vegetation, where there are trees and some canopy in this area here. It's the edge of the lawn versus the little rougher. Yeah, you just talked about a golf course, so this would be classified as the rough, I guess, out in the edge of the fairway. But this house that was approved was so close to for the mitigation planting to be 10 feet away. The mitigation planting wasn't even allowed to be counted within this sort of rough area here. So that's the approved plan. And there it is. This is our proposed plan, and I'll just start out by showing you the red outline here, particularly right here, you see, is the approved plan. In this location here, the red outline. That's approved, and you can see the heavy outline that's shaded is the proposed house. There's some, going back and forth. You see the proposed house gets bigger up in this area with the garage. It gets a little bigger in this area, but it's also pulled back in this location right here. And it's a little smaller in this location. So they're about, I think, 40 some square feet different in footprint. So it's not a big change. And the change that was made, I think, is a benefit. It's moved back. So in this case, this line right here is what we had located as the same line that is on the other plan. And the house is 11 feet away from that, not the 3.5 feet. And actually the closest point to the bank is this retaining wall, not a house. And that retaining wall is further landward than the approved house is. So the only place where the house goes closer toward Nantucket Sound is in this location where the coastal bank is further downhill. And even still, the house is 19 feet away from the top of the coastal bank rather than the 3.5 feet. And it is closer in this location, but the coastal bank is further away also. So that, I think, is just looking at it to amend the order. We have a house that's 40 square feet bigger, and it is further from the resource areas, particularly the coastal bank. It is closer to Nantucket Sound, but we're way outside the, the zone A or zone B of the land under a water body, which is right, well, there's the coastal dune zone A. And so the tidal action zone B is here. And so I would see this as an improvement. The septic system is in more or less the same system as on the approved plan. We do have the gravel pave driveway, which is a system to make it truly pervious in this location. So there'd be no runoff from the driveway here. And again, as in the other plan, this old part of the driveway, which is a compacted gravel surface, will be stripped off and loamed and seeded with the drought-tolerant grass conservation mix in this location. And we have, you can see the mitigation we have running through here, and on this side is, I don't know where the other plan went. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Having trouble with my PDFs now. It's basically the same mitigation on the north side. We actually have more mitigation along the south side than what they had, partly because, sorry about that. So more mitigation, including 3 cedar trees here, is a screen from the house that's going up on the next lot. So I will stop my sharing now and take any questions. Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
Tom, can you go back over the gravel pave area again? Are you mitigating for that or no?
Am I what?
Mitigating for the driveway.
No, it's a pervious surface.
That doesn't support natural vegetation, so.
That's in a zone A, that requirement. This is a zone B.
Okay. That's my only question, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Melissa?
Let me see. I think there was a notation in the mitigation area, Tom. There was like a circle and it said native seedlings in there. Will you be replacing that area with mitigation?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, in the mitigation area, there's a section that's labeled native seedlings. I didn't know, I mean, are those viable natives or just going to be replaced with mitigation?
I had just, when I was there, I just noticed that there were some seedlings. I don't know how viable they are as part of the approved mitigation area. And I think that this was, you know, it was approved 2 years ago. And in that time, you know, there's an area there. It seems to have sprouted some, I can remember a few little cedar trees and a couple other things growing up in there. Frankly, cedar trees, you know, with the overstory aren't going to grow too much. Cedar trees don't grow well in the shade. It was just something I had noted when I was there, that there's an area where some things seem to have sprouted and you know, perhaps nurtured, but still, whether something grows naturally or whether it's planted, I think it would still count as you know, you'll get native species out of it. But I think to do, you know, fully, I think if we have to, we'll intended to plant more of these other species throughout it, maybe staying away from some of the little seedlings.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
All right. Tell me again why this isn't a whole new application.
Well, there's an existing order of conditions for a house, and they wanted to put in a differently designed house.
Yeah. Courtney.
One quick question, Mr. Chairman. Tom, the resource area boundary delineation changed, did it not?
There were a couple things, yes.
Okay.
I don't know. Courtney?
So the question to be considered is the scope of change significant enough that we require a new NOI? I'm not sure I have problem with what you're proposing. It's just the scope of the change. I don't have any other questions.
All
I
right.
think it's to me, I mean, if I might respond, I mean, that's right here. I don't think the scope is changing, and the house is not significantly bigger. And the mitigation is basically the same.
Right. The resources are different. The house is different. The septic is different.
There are minor changes in them. The septic is in basically the same location. It's slightly differently configured.
All right. Maury?
I agree with you, Jamie. Usually it's a minor change, like a deck is being switched around or a shower stall or AC pad. This is a whole new house. It is larger. The resources have changed. I saw that there's retaining walls, some grade changes that weren't on the original plan. Is it a walkout basement now or something?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's going to be grade changes. Also, the locust tree that was on the last one was shown rather large. I almost needed a magnifying glass to see the 20-inch locust on this plan. I don't know. I'm just used to seeing amendments being very minimal, not a whole entire project. Thank you. So I would be more inclined to think that there should be a new notice.
Peter?
I'm leaning toward having a start at the beginning. That's it.
Okay. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
The only thing in the public chat was that Ms. Alcott wanted to know everyone that she was here.
Okay. Does Sheila want to speak?
Ms. Alcott, if you would like to address the board, can you use the raise hand function and I'll promote you to a panelist? Okay. I'm promoting Karen Alcott as panelist.
Hey, everyone. I had hoped that this was going to be simple. The house next door caused me to have to reshuffle my design, and I was, well versed in the requirements of the conservation. And I thought by pulling back the house, the survey, as far as I was told, is very similar to what Stephen Doyle had done. I think he passed away. And so when Tom looked at this, he said, yes, things are pretty much in the same area. He didn't have any differential with that. I worked hard to sort of make minor changes to the sort of placement of the house, which I thought would be to benefit, and maintain all the mitigation and sort of, recommendations that you had made from before. So I really thought this was going to be pretty simple, and that it was an adjustment of what had already been approved. I've been through a lot of cycles on this, and it would be disappointing if we had to start all over again. So I just I want to address your concerns. But adding 43 square feet to the house and then pulling it back from any of the sort of conservation concerns, and trying to make very minimal changes. I've been at this now for a long time. I'd like to move forward if you will allow it.
All right. Anything else from the board? All right, what's your pleasure?
Certainly, if I just may, I mean, I still don't think it depends on the definition of minor perhaps, but the house is in a better position. we believe it's an improvement over what was done, what was approved. It's been moved back, and the mitigation is the same. We're really not affecting anything differently except for making it somewhat better than what was approved. Without big changes. It's partly just moving it back, which I would like it if you could see it as an amendment.
Maury?
Are there grade changes where that walkout is now?
You say where the walkout is now, or where the walkout is proposed?
Where you're proposing, I'm sorry.
It's right there. It's a slight grade change. We're not excavating right there, because on the plan there's some existing steps that go down. So where that house comes out to, I mean, it's basically it's that 16-foot contour right outside the house. It might be like a lower. It might be like a half a foot, less than 1 foot of excavation right there. It's a minor change.
So there are no elevation changes up on the resource side?
Where there's some, what's that?
What you're proposing, your new proposal.
There's some grading changes to, again, minor grading changes, half a foot this way or that way, where we have the slope coming down, or we have some stepping stones coming down the slope. In that area, I mean, I do show new contours on that, but it's fairly minor. Like I said, where the walkout is, and going up where the walkout is elevation 16. Like I said, is less than a foot of elevation change at that point. But there is grading. I mean, some grading changed.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Okay.
Second, Harlow Hawks.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Before you, I just wanted, before you do that, I mean, if you close this and take it under advisement, we could take 3 weeks to make a decision. I don't know if you can still do that, but I'd like to know, what I know some of you have the feeling about which way to go. Maybe we can talk to Jen tomorrow. But we don't want, if we have to do a new notice, I don't want to wait for 3 weeks before I know that. So maybe if you do close that, I can talk with Jen and see if it's really going to go that way, so I can preemptively just file the new notice. But it's not what we want to do.
Well, I think if you kind of heard the concerns of all 4 of the voting members, it was rather clear to me that a new notice is what was recommended.
Okay. Only 4 of you. Yeah.
I mean, I know even if there were other 2 members working here, they would say that.
Courtney?
I just have a technical question. Jen, when would we be considering this this order?
On the 30th.
That's 2 weeks from today.
Yep, we don't have a meeting next week, Courtney.
Okay. So you'll know by the 30th. I mean, we have to deliberate. It's, in my view, not a slam dunk. It's just, these are the concerns that we have. We have to look at the whole thing.
All right, we have a motion on a second on the table. We'll close the hearing. Taking the vote. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Oh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing.
Tom, if you'd like to talk to me tomorrow, I'm not going to be in the office for the next 2 days, but feel free to call my cell phone. I'll have it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Good night.
Next up, continued hearings under an enforcement order. Leonard Bassett Jr. and Patricia Bassett, trustees, 465 Courier Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of trees within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We met on the site with the with the owner and the owner's representative, person that actually did the work. That was early last week, correct, Alyssa?
I think it was Thursday. I think it was Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. We did receive some photos from the applicant's representative that we just haven't been that we received them on Friday afternoon, and we just haven't really had a chance to really go through the photos of the storm damage that were provided to us, compared with the number of trees that were removed from the site. So we need some more time to evaluate that. We're also going to be working with the property owner on a separate kind of issue with their dock. We'll be having a Zoom conversation with them next week regarding that, but we just need some more time to evaluate the photos. So we're recommending a continuance until the April 6th to just give us time to look at the photos, compare them, go through all the information, and put something together for you.
All righty.
Bird, so moved.
Carlo Hawk, second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this until April 6th. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 6th. Next up, vote order of conditions. Barbara Goodtui, trustee, 15 Rock Street, nominee trust, 15 Rock Street, Falmouth, Mass.
Give me one
Quorum
second.
is all of us.
Yep, just need 1 second, Mr. Chairman. I have to regroup. This is the patio. They're mitigating for the patio. We had a concern of them moving, squishing some of that mitigation between the two properties over there. So they said that they were going to remove the fire pit area. They're proposing to add an addition over some existing impervious surface, but they added a whole bunch of impervious surface to patio without the benefit of a permit. So they're attempting to mitigate for that now. There's really no room on that lot between the house and the resource areas. It's all pavement. It's those little, those houses along Wild Harbor. There's the house, there's a seawall, and between every house and the seawall is concrete. So they're proposing to put the mitigation plantings in some lawn areas in front of the house, next to Rock Street on the side, and then like 26 square feet on the other side of that lot, a house on the lot line. And we just don't think the 26 square feet really needs to, that's just not an appropriate place for them. So they have proposed to take out the fire pit, I guess, and put move that 26 feet to where their 58 square foot of lawn was going to remain. And then there should be a finding that's no more square foot addition because this is in a velocity zone.
Right.
Anything else to add?
Anybody have anything? Nope.
I just had one question. Just one question, Jen.
Yeah.
we're supposed to have, one of our regulations is the mitigation is supposed to be closer to the resource, closest to the resource. And this doesn't meet the performance standards. I mean, it basically, if they put the addition on, this mitigation, most of the stuff was all illegally done on the front yard, the fire pit, all the added stuff. So what we're doing is we're letting them put 200 square feet or 198 square feet or whatever it is. And then they're going to give us back area that was illegally disturbed in the front yard. So you know where my vote's going to go on this. Because it doesn't meet our performance standards.
Usually you want usually you do want well, not usually, yes, the regulation requires the mitigation plantings to be closest to the resource area. The problem with this property is between the house and the resource area, which is the coastal beach.
It's concrete.
It's concrete.
Which means whatever addition, either then rip up some concrete, but they're going to get their concrete, their addition, and all their illegal stuff that they built in the front yard that now they're going to give us as mitigation to have 200 more square feet in a B zone. Anyway, I brought it up before. Thank you.
Anybody have anything?
So, Maury, what are you proposing? That they remove the concrete?
No, I'm just not going to vote for it, which is what I'm going to do. Because I think that the addition is just not capable. We had other projects that they didn't have a place to plant for the mitigation. And this is a perfect example. If you don't have the space to put it in the A zone within the closest to the resource, then you can't have it.
Was that concrete on the shoreline between the house and the wall? Is that permitted?
It's been there forever, Jamie. I mean, all those houses when they were built, they were built on that concrete seawall.
Yep, back in the 30s.
The addition itself is going over existing impervious surface. We know that. They're mitigating for the additional impervious surface, the patio that they put on the lot. So that's what I believe that's what the mitigation is for the patio. It's not for the addition.
Melissa?
And I just wanted to note there is some lawn area around the existing deck. I don't believe we discussed transferring some of the mitigation over there, but I suppose that is an option. As close as you're going to get without removing patio.
All right.
Liz is right. There is lawn over there, and that is in the velocity zone where the mitigation, where they have the mitigation now, is mostly out of the velocity zone. Look at this plan. This plan does not have its Falmouth B zone on here.
So the staff's recommendation is that they relocate the mitigation plantings? Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, if I could.
Oh, okay.
Give me 1 second, Steve. Let me see if I can pull up an aerial for you guys real quick.
I actually still get paper copies of this stuff, you know.
Me too, brother. Me too.
Do you guys want to? I can stop the paper copies if you want to look at a plan on your phone while you're out in the field.
No.
Didn't think so.
It was unnecessary for you to put it up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. Why am I over on? So if you have your paper copy, you can see, I just want to look at something real quick. What is this, Rock Street?
Yeah, Rock Street. So the southwest is where there's lawn off of that deck that Alyssa thought was added. It got bigger, but then they showed that it was cantilevered a little bit. So that's literally the only area in the whole property that's closer to the resource. That's not concrete.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to share my screen real quick. This is the area Alyssa's talking about. Where right now they have the mitigation up there. This is the area. And once they walk off this desk, this is the way they get into, if this is a little wall, this is the way they go. So they're going like that. So I don't know if that's a great place. I mean, we could move it closer to here.
I'm not sure how much would fit with the 10-foot offset to the structure.
Yeah.
Could fit some, that's an option.
Are you ready for a motion, or are we still?
The mitigation is technically not for the addition, it's for the patio again.
Okay. Yes, Steve, we are.
I'd make a motion to approve the plan with the staff continuing to review the best place for the mitigation.
A Bird second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Jen?
I'll just offer an option for you. You can approve the addition and require the patio to be removed because they can't appropriately mitigate for it. But I think we would have to do that. We would have to do a separate enforcement order to have the patio removed, and because it can't properly be mitigated for. So that's an option for the board.
Well, more native plants would be better than lawn.
Okay.
So I'm not going to die on that hill, but that lot has had a lot of illegal work, and it's just basically being rewarded for doing it.
I mean,
unpermitted. I'm sorry, unpermitted work.
The mitigation plantings could get in that area where the deck is. I know you were concerned about the stairs coming off of that. They could always bring the stairs off the other end of that deck, and then there's room for the mitigation.
We don't allow mitigation.
Within 10 feet of the structure.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I second Steve's motion.
I got that. Thank you. All right. So we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Courtney?
Bird, no.
Matthews, no. Maury?
No. Harlow Hawks?
Peter?
No.
Steve?
Yes.
That was affirmative?
Affirmative, sir.
Thank you. I wasn't looking, sorry. All right, it's 4-1, so it is effectively denied.
Okay.
All right, next up, Kevin Cusack, 380 Edgewater Drive East, Falmouth, Mass. The quorum is all of us.
Finding the plan, Mr. Chairman, bear with me. This is the Coastal Bank.
Stabilization.
Yeah, he's just doing a Coastal Bank He's doing the core fiber roll and the coastal bank restoration project. So it was that and Teresa's plan. I think they addressed all of our concerns. They're adding some, what was it? Mitigation that, was it mitigation? No, just remove the invasive species and replanting it with natives. So we were concerned about one area of vegetation for the access, but Teresa explained they're just going to map that and it'll bounce back.
All right. And I'm sure you have a bucket load of standard conditions for
Yeah, we do.
fiber roll type things. All right. Does anybody have anything they'd
We
like
had
to see?
land. Did Mike do a revised plan for land containing shellfish?
Good catch.
Did. Hang on. Yep, I got it right here.
Okay, and you're gonna do the beach profiles requirement, monitoring, and then the
We'll do
last.
monitoring.
And I don't know how that's gonna bounce back after they run over it and crushed it and.
It wasn't, remember, it wasn't an area, like she showed us a picture of it. It wasn't that, it wasn't a real dense shrub layer. It was just kind of.
Well, wouldn't just the water just all run down there and?
We'll make a condition to, they have to replant that area.
It's vegetated, all right, I make a condition that they vegetate the access area along that. I think it would be to their benefit.
Absolutely. You
The
want
same
us to
species
have
that they've already.
this area? We'll do it.
With the same type of species she's, with that nice plan she gave us.
Anything else? All right.
I make a motion to
Motion
accept.
to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Carlo Hawk second.
All right. Or you kind of beat him, so he gets the second.
Uh,
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Town of Falmouth. Various waterways and beaches, Falmouth, Mass. Sufficiently vague.
This is what we commonly refer to as the comprehensive dredge permit. Basically, they're gonna have a bunch of like time of year restrictions. Right now the beaches are, we have recently contracted with a company that is doing beach profiling through a system called Drone Deploy. The contract was signed and sent out the other day. So the areas that are being nourished with sand from these dredge projects is those town beaches are being annually monitored. So that's good. We do need to put a couple of different conditions in here. One is that they do need DCR's approval prior to shearing off, what I call shearing off the tip of Washburn Island. The dredge channel, the dredge footprint does go right through the Washburn Island, which is accreting into that area. They do not have permission from DCR yet or an access license, so that does need to be obtained before the town can undertake the work in that area.
But they agreed to that.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to. It's not our property. We can't just destroy Washburn Island. So we'll add all the time of year restrictions and all the other conditions we added in the old comp dredge permit. They did make a statement that says that none of the material from any sort of future dredging in Megansett will go on Megansett Beach. So we will make a condition that there's no dredge spoils to go on Megansett Beach. And then obviously all of the sand has to be compatible. And all of the conditions we added in the past comprehensive dredge permit will add to this one.
All right. Maury?
Just one question. Steve had brought up about where they, at Minot, where they keep piling all the piles and piles to protect the road. Do they monitor that at all, Jen? Because we know where it goes. It goes into Bourne's Pond. Are they gonna monitor that?
No, where the piling of the sand, that doesn't go into Barnes Pond.
No, okay.
That's in the parking lot. That's all those big piles they put in the parking lot.
Yeah,
That whole area is going to be obviously the bridge project and the Groin project and everything else. So that whole area is going to be
addressed,
reworked and stabilized in a more sustainable way. Right now, we're just trying to do everything we can to save that parking lot because that area gets chewed up every year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
To make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. All right, Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, vote enforcement order. William T. Dowling Jr., trustee, Venus Realty Trust, 6 Scallop Cove, East Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we put, we continue this so staff could come up with some appropriate timing for the removal of the stumps and the planting of the shrub material. To stay, staff hasn't come up with that yet, but we will come up with it in the order. It will probably be, I mean, we have the plan, we have the plan concepts approved. We have the plan in-house, or we'll get it in-house, and we'll have them plant within 60 days. I know Maria's itching to get in there, so everything will be planted within 60 days.
All right. Anybody have anything they'd like to see in there?
Monitoring.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to issue order of conditions as discussed.
I mean, issue of enforcement order?
Yeah, to be clear.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Your motion is to issue an enforcement order as discussed?
Rather second yours.
Okay, I'll second it.
You. All right, if there's nothing else, we're going to take the vote. Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you. A reminder, no meeting next week. All right, last motion and second.
Move to adjourn.
Carlo Hawks, second.
Come on, Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Walsh, aye.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned.
Have a nice week
Courtney, a
off,
little
everyone.
sluggish there.